All right, what's going on, you guys? Totally unplanned, totally unplanned live. I'm gonna wait for a few more people to join in before I start talking about this press conference between Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. Um, I just finished watching the presser, and it was hilarious. And I just had I had to just jump on live. Totally threw off my day. Because I was supposed to be doing the Anthony Joshua Alexander Usyk rematch breakdown this morning. I mean, I had planned to, and then I saw this press conference, and it was so funny. I mean, even I really enjoyed that press conference. I actually had to rewind it, like certain parts of it, a few times, just like, yo, did Chris really say that just now? He was so disrespectful in a cool way, though. I mean, I just finished talking about this yesterday, and especially to Americans, a lot of Americans really don't have any interest in this fight. I think most of us here, when we see all of the fights that could be made in their, respected divisions, we're looking at it like, well, why isn't Chris fighting all of these? Yo, D Block Express. Wow, this is an old school YouTuber right here. What's up with you, bro? It's been a long time. I haven't seen you on here in a long time. Good to see you, though. Hope all is well. What's up, C2? So, yeah, I think most of us is looking at it like, man, we're not interested in this fight. This father son rivalry thing that's going on. I mean, this is a big British rivalry. You know what I'm saying? This is not a thing that Americans seem to really care for, unless you were from that time and you were watching it at that time. I know I wasn't watching it on that time. I didn't see those two fight, and I'm talking about the father. I'm talking about Eubank Sr. and Nigel Benn. I didn't see those fights until I was older, but I understand how big this is to British boxing. But we see it as, Chris, you could be fighting all of these guys that's in 160, the top tier guys. Why aren't you fighting them? That's what we want to see. We want to see you against the Jaime Munguias, the Demetrius Andres, the Jamal Charlos, the Triple G's of the world. All of those guys, we want to see that. We don't want to see you fighting a welterweight. And the same thing with Conor Benn. We don't want to see you going up 2 weight divisions when you have Boots there, when you have Virgil Ortiz there, Rashidi Ellis, Stanionis, all of these guys at 147. We want to see if you can really be a dog and beat one of those guys before we see you go up 2 divisions to fight a 160, a very good middleweight. So a lot of us are not interested. And then on top of that, this is a pay-per-view. This is the zone pay-per-view. So we've only seen I believe Canelo and Triple G was going to be it's going to be a pay-per-view. I think Canelo and Bivol is a pay-per-view. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure Joshua and Usyk is a pay-per-view. I'm not sure, right? But they're starting to have pay-per-views now. All right. But this is going to be a pay-per-view, and I don't think Americans are going to be really paying for it like that, to be honest. But look, this press conference was hilarious. So many quotables from Chris Eubank. I mean, the level of arrogance and ego that he has, it really, 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 really sounds like C2 says pay-per-view only for UK and Ireland. All right, well, if that's true, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry. If I'm wrong, my bad. I'm just watching it and I'm seeing pay-per-view, the zone pay-per-view on a banner. So I'm like, this is crazy, because I don't think Americans are going to pay for this stuff, but if that's good, that makes sense. That's cool if that's the truth. But regardless, I'm watching this and I'm like, Chris Eubank, I've often called the Billy Joe Saunders, the British version of Adrian Broner. His arrogance, the amount of times he's got in trouble outside of the ring, and I often just compare the two. And I feel like Chris Eubank, he takes like his father. Both of them do. Conor does take like his father too. I mean, if you looked at their old interviews, it kind of reminds me, like, because Chris is so arrogant and you can see that Conor is like getting pissed off by his ego, and it reminds me of their pops. It does. It really does. And Chris, I can't help but think and wonder, like, well, if Chris was able to really just take this arrogance thing, this ego thing that he has to the next level, right? If he had just did it throughout his career, I feel like he could have done more with his career, even with the loss of Saunders, because he lost to Saunders. He eventually went up to 168, picked up some good wins, lost to George Groves, came back down. And we still haven't seen him fight another notable name. And I feel like when it comes to Chris, even with the losses, and I brought up Adrian Broner for a point, even with the losses, Adrian Broner was still able to secure a Manny Pacquiao fight. He was still able, he had his losses, he had his draws, he had his debatable gift wins. And with all of that, Adrian Broner was able to talk his way to the top. So you guys might get where I'm going with this. And I can't help but wonder, like, with this interview, this press conference that I saw this morning, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, Chris could have really did more with himself. Because he is 32. I think he said he was 32. I just think that the Saunders fight was so many years ago. And even though he fought George Groves, and I understand that was for a title and everything, I still feel like he didn't really get that big one. Like, this is his real big fight. This fight right here, and it's against a welterweight. And I feel like, if Broner could secure a Manny Pacquiao fight, right, even with all the losses, right, people just stop believing in Broner with all the troubles he's been involved in outside of the sport. He was still able to secure that fight. And I feel like Eubank Jr., if he had held a title, he could have at least definitely secured a Triple G or Canelo fight. Easily. Because those guys are at a point in their career where they can select who they want to face. Let's be real. They fought good fighters, but they can be selective. They're in a position where they can turn certain fighters down, and they both have. So with that being said, I think Chris Eubank could have been one of those guys, because not a lot of people like him, and not a lot of people liked his father because of the arrogance, but they could have sold the shit out of a fight. Like, even just watching this, like, I really didn't have much interest in this fight. I've been on record with saying that. I didn't have much interest in this fight. You know what I'm saying? Historically, I understand why the British folks do. But me personally, I don't understand the fight because I just see so much for the both of them. But at the same time, watching that press conference, it sold it to me. It just off the strength of Chris. Chris was like, he said a lot of shit. I'm not going to remember. Chris said something on the lines of, because they were talking about, he keeps bringing up the weight and the rehydration clause. So it's true. There is a catch weight and there is a rehydration clause in there. So we know that Chris has not fought below 160. He says since he was 18. If that's true, and it's like 14 years later, he has to drop down in a lower weight, and plus he cannot rehydrate overnight. right? He still has to do another weigh-in on the day of the fight. And with the contract, I don't know how the contract is. I don't know if the fight's going to be canceled. I don't know. I know he's going to get, a huge, he's going to have to pay a huge fee, whatever amount of pounds he comes over. With that being said, he goes up there and he's like, he's being real cool. He's like, listen, man, I'm not going to be 100% in this fight. I have to come down to a weight I haven't been since I was 18. And then I can't come above a certain weight neither. So I'm not going to be 100% for this fight. Because if I was 100%, this would be a public execution. Dude, I had to rewind that part like 3 times. It was hilarious because it's really grinding Ben's gears. You see him on the end. Conor Benn is the type of dude. He ain't much of a talker. He's sitting there, he got this little tank top on. He flexing his muscles. He got the tattoos, sitting there with the dark shades. And you could see the frustration on his face. He's trying to play cool. He's trying to play Mr. Tough Guy. You could see it in his face that he's getting pissed off because Chris Eubank just doesn't care. He's sitting there like, he says to Conor Benn, he's like, look, I'm not even going to prepare for this fight like I normally do. Like I normally kill myself preparing for a fight. I'm sparring killers, He said, this fight here, I'm just going to get fit and I just got to make sure I cut the weight. Because this is an easy fight. Like I'm going to win this fight. I mean, I'm coming in, bro. He said, Malik, you see that? He said, I'm going to come in 60% for this fight. He said at the end, I'm going to work my way up to 60%. He sold the fight for me. You know why the fight is sold for me? Because if he loses his fight, and he said this himself, if he loses his fight, he's done. He's done. How the hell do you lose to a welterweight? That isn't even proven yet. He said, if I lose this fight, I'm done. And he's right. And I think part of the reason on why I'm interested in this fight is sold in my eyes is because if Conor beats him, that's a hell of a win. If Conor actually wins this fight, that's a hell of a win. If Chris Eubank loses his fight, well, damn, you did a lot of talking for someone that just lost to a guy that you were so confident in beating. So now I want to see what happens here. I want to see, because like I said to you guys yesterday when I talked about this fight, it's not like Kell Brook versus Triple G in my eyes. I don't look at it like that. I don't look at it like Mikey Garcia versus Errol Spence. I don't even look at it like Rigo against Lomachenko, because those guys are just on a higher level. Those guys that moved up, they were fighting a top tier fighter that was more proven than Chris Eubank Jr. The 2 best people that Eubank Jr. fought, he lost to. So I'm still not unsure about him. I'm still very unsure about him. I'm still very unsure on Conor Benn. Conor Benn is beating the right people on the come up, but he ain't fight the top tier fighters yet. Yes, Les, this is definitely a UK thing, but I'm interested now based on the amount of trash talking Chris Eubank. Chris Eubank said to him, like, since both of our fathers are not here because they weren't at the pressers, they said, so I'm just going to treat you like my son. Like, I'm going to walk you all the way through this. He's just talking reckless. And Conor Benn don't have that wit, He don't have that swag. He don't have it. He's just trying to be tough. And I like that. I like that. I like that Chris Eubank Jr. And I wish he did more with it. I think he should have done much more with it because he could have been that UK British Adrian Broner. He could have been that guy. But he didn't use it like that. He didn't use it like that. He could have talked his way into some big fights at 160 and 168. Or maybe even at 154. He could have talked his way into some of these fights, but it just never happened. I honestly believe that he could have talked his way into a Triple G or Canelo Alvarez fight. And, we see moments and spurts of it. We saw it in the ring when he, was fighting, especially when he was coming up. We saw a lot of his dad and stuff, but it seemed like after he took his losses, he kind of got humbled. He wasn't really talking. I haven't seen him talk like this kind of talk since, some of the earlier fights, So I don't know. Maybe those losses kind of hurt his confidence and stuff. I know he's been working with Roy. I'm still waiting to see how that new Roy Jones Jr. style fits well into the rest of these top tier fighters. I'm yet to see that, but I feel that he could have been that guy. He could have done much more with his career, and just I think all of the bouncing around that he's done all his career, going to different promoters and different networks, I just don't think like, if you're going to switch over, make sure you get the bag, make sure you get the proper fight. And he just never really got that. He never really got that. Like, I don't know. It's just a waste to me. But he got this fight. And, it is a lose-lose situation for him kind of because if he does win, people are going to be like, well, you deserve to win. You should win. You're 160. He's 147 and he's unproven. You're more experienced than him. You should win the fight. You're bigger and you might be better as a boxer. So he's definitely more experienced. Let's just say that. You definitely watch the presser. I mean, I thought it was entertaining. I mean, the guy was just like talking about, I think Conor Benn said something about him playing, more focused on your poker and everything. He's like, yeah, maybe I'll take a break. I think I'm obviously just, I could be. I don't think he said it exactly this way. He's like, well, maybe I'll slow down with the poker and stuff. He's very confident in this fight, and I know Eddie turned and looked at him like, you don't think that you might be overseeing Conor Benn? You don't think you're being too overcoming, you're overlooking Conor Benn? And he said, yeah, I am overlooking him. Like he really, and I think as a promoter, and as the fighters are promoting the fight, because that's what they do. The fighters are really promoting this fight. As far as promoting the fight, you want to convince the people that this is a 50-50 fight. You want to convince the people that Conor Benn has a chance. But now Chris is promoting it in the sense that this guy has no chance of beating me. Zero chance of beating me. And now people are going to want to tune in just to see him lose, in the hopes that he loses the fight. Because that's how a lot of other fighters were, like Floyd Mayweather, like an Adrian Broner. People wanted to see those guys lose because they hated them so much. So anyway, I love the press conference. I definitely will suggest that you guys watch it out, check it out. It was fun. It was a fun watch. The both of them definitely reminds me of their dads. But this is a UK fight. But I am definitely interested because, I know the history of the dads. They try to go into it a little bit. I think Chris said more about that, about growing up, knowing who Nigel Benn was and the Benn family and how that rivalry was and what it did for him. They asked him about how was it like growing up? How did you feel about Nigel Benn? And he said, even with his father winning the first fight being a draw, even with that, he said he doesn't have hatred for the Benns. He doesn't have, he doesn't even dislike Conor Benn. But he said he understands that, Nigel, being that Nigel is the one that lost the first fight, you know, he this is his way of getting a win over the Eubanks, is by having his son beat Chris Eubank's son, Chris Eubank Sr. So he's saying, like, I looked at the interviews of Ben and what he said about my father and what he did with my father, and it makes me want to, you know, have some revenge against him, you know. But I don't think, you know, that really, they try to go take that angle, and I don't think it really hit like that, because Conor Benn really didn't have much to say when it came to that. Conor Benn didn't really say too much. Conor Benn said a lot about basically Chris Eubank is building up excuses if he were to lose, because he's basing everything on the weight. He keeps talking about the weight. He keeps talking about how he's not going to be 100%. You know, he's saying that he's excuses. But my question is, and I'm watching this, I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, well, all right, they agreed upon the catch weight. I understand that they agree. And whatever you agree on, you got to go for. You got to take. You know, whatever you agree on. If you agree to a rehydration clause, to a catch weight, if you agree on a certain fighter having a certain, or the gloves or the ring size or whatever, if you agreed on something for the fight and you sign the paperwork, then you got to take it. You know, this that whole A side, B side stuff. But look, Conor Benn, would you have taken a fight if there was no catch weight? I don't think so. Would you have taken a fight if there were no rehydration clause? I don't think so. Let's be honest here. You know, Mikey Garcia went up to fight Arrow at 147. No catch weight, no rehydration clause. Same with Kell Brook and Triple G. No catch weight, no rehydration clause. He moved up 2 divisions. These guys moved up 2 divisions to fight that top tier fighter at their respective weight. No funny stuff, no stipulation. He did what he had to do. So when Conor Benn says you're making excuses by saying you're not going to be 100%, yeah, but you know he's not going to be 100%, because this is why the catch weight is there. This is why the rehydration clause is there. It's not just a catch weight. It's a rehydration clause too. I have to come in drained to make this as even as possible. And Chris was saying it's still not even, because 60% of me is still better than what you have to offer. This is why I made the video, because I'm like, yo, this guy was being so disrespectful, but he's not lying. Let's be real. It's not a built-in excuse, because at the end of the day, if you lose, nobody's going to care that you were drained, especially when you're that arrogant. No one's going to care that you weren't 100% for this fight. If you lose this fight, you're done. But he's so confident because the chances of him losing this fight is very, very unlikely. Conor looks very powerful. He looks very strong. He's fast. He's very talented. I like him. I like him a lot. I like both of them. But his chances of winning this fight is highly unlikely. And to be honest, I believe that this fight goes exactly how that press conference goes or went today. You know, I believe that that's exactly what we're going to get. Chris Eubank is going to destroy him. And he can do it in different ways. He can totally outclass him and outbox him round for round, or he can actually beat him up. I think it goes either way. There's weight classes for a reason. And even though I don't think Chris Eubank is a Triple G or an Errol Spence level type of fighter, and I don't believe Conor Benn is a Spence or or a Kell Brook. I mean, Kell Brook and his prime to me is better than what Conor Benn is right now, in my opinion. Kell Brook, at the time that he went for Triple G, was better than Conor Benn right now, in my opinion. You know, I mean, they're both welterweights, and that's the reason why I'm comparing them. I was more sure of Kell Brook going into that fight simply because, I thought that was a mismatch. What am I saying? But Kell Brook had at least beaten Sean Porter, who was undefeated. That gave me something. Conor, I still don't really know what he has to offer on the elite level. I just don't know yet. Dirty Red, thank you for the donation. Conor about to become the welterweight AJ. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means, bro. You're gonna have to elaborate on that a little bit more. I don't understand the welterweight AJ. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you mean by that. You know, because I don't know what similarities are between the two besides them both being British. You know, AJ has been a career heavyweight. I'm not really sure what you mean by that comment, bro. Sorry. But thank you for donating. Thank you for the super chat. But let me know in the comments. I'll definitely I wanna hear what you have to say when it comes to that. C2 says I got been by annihilation. I mean, if you do, that's cool. I agree. I disagree. You know, I think Chris Eubank wins the fight. Oh, a big UK star. Okay, I got you. I think if he wins the fight, this is what I'm saying. It's a lot more to gain for him because for Chris Eubank, it's more of a big bag. You know, him fighting another star who they're building up. You know what? I think they're building up Conor to be more of a star than Eubank. You know, and it seems like back in the old days, from what I've seen, it seems like Nigel was much more liked, and it's starting to appear that way with Conor Benn and Chris Eubank. It seemed like a lot of people in the UK don't really like Chris Eubank like that. You know, I seen him getting booed during his ring walks and his victory celebrations and stuff. I seen him getting booed over the years, and this is by the British fans. This is not by us. We don't really have any say. It seemed like a lot of people don't like him or his father. But when I look at the old videos and when I looked at the old fights, it seemed like everybody was a fan of Nigel Benn more so than Chris Eubank. You know, even in the rematch after, you know, even after you know, Chris Eubank had already won the fight, people still was more of a fan of Nigel Benn. Jazz asks, what do you make of Hrgovic? Zhang can punch and is fast early and flip seems hittable. I think Hrgovic is gonna be knocking him out. I don't rate Zhang really that high. He's much older. He's very slow. He's very powerful, just like most heavyweights are. But I think Hrgovic is better. He's younger, he's fresher, he's faster. He punches too. I think he's just a better talent overall. I think he's a better boxer. I watched many more of his fights, his amateur fights. He's fought a lot of top tier fighters in his amateur days. And even though I know he's been highly avoided as a heavyweight, probably the most avoided guy, one of the most avoided guys in the heavyweight division, I don't think Zane got much for him, man. I got Hrgovic winning by stoppage. You know, I think he's just too old. And I think if Hrgovic plays it right, plays it smart, and get him into deeper waters, you know, let the first 4 or 5 rounds go. Let Zhang burn out. We've seen him almost damn near pass out in a fight before, not in one of his more recent fights where he was gassed. I think Hrgovic can win pretty easily and stop him. All right, but thank you for the super chat. Am I watching Bay and Farmer today? Yeah, I won't be going live today because I won't be here. I'm not going to do live commentary for any of the fights this weekend, but I will check it out. I thought it was tomorrow. Thank you for reminding me. It is today. I know it's, I believe, I think it's going to be on Fight TV. I'm not sure how to watch it, but I'm going to check it out, and I'm going to support and pay for the fight. I don't really know who's going to win, you know, but I don't think it's going to be a great fight, to be honest. I think their styles are really not really made for action, you know. Both guys, good, very good boxers, but not big punchers. And, you know, I mean, it's a good fight. It's a good matchup. You know, I think if Bay is to win, it'll be his last chance of probably getting a big shot. And you know, I think Tevin Farmer needs to get some kind of momentum going back too. I think they both really, really need to win. Yeah. So, you know, that's how I feel about that. Eddie Morales, I agree with you. I think Stanionis would beat Ben right now. I think Stanionis would beat him right now. You know, I don't think it would be easy. You know, I'm not sleeping on that fight, but I do think Stanionis, it would be him right now. I'm more impressed with Stanionis' win against Butayev than I am with Ben's wins against Algieri and you know, Samuel Vargas, you know, and Adrian Granado. So I do agree with you for that. You know, I do think Stanionis, I rate him a little bit higher. I rate him, Ortiz Jr. and Boots over Ben for now at least. Stanionis is very, very good. Very good. I will be doing commentary next week. I know AJ is going to be fighting Usyk. So I'm definitely gonna be doing commentary for that. As far as the other fights, I'm not sure. I gotta see what time all the other cards go, but I should be able to do it. All right. Thank you, that guy Slick. What's up with you, man? Yeah, so anyway, yo, this is gonna be just a quick live. I just wanted to get on here and go over this press conference. I'm definitely digging a fight. I just don't. I'm entertained by it. All right, but it's all about Conor Benn. Conor Benn has everything to gain here because if he wins, he is just going to be an automatic. This is my problem. This is the problem I have with the fight. If Conor Benn is to win, even if he loses this fight, I don't want him to turn into this whole I'm a big A-side guy and not fight the top tier welterweights. That's what I'm worried about. If he does win this fight, they're going to say, I did pay-per-view. I beat Chris Eubank Jr., who's a middleweight. I still believe, and many of you might disagree with me, but that's cool. I believe I think Conor Benn fighting Boots Ennis right now at welterweight is a harder fight for him than fighting a drained Eubank at 160. It's just my opinion. I think he has a better chance of being Eubank drained at 160. And I think that's part of the reason why certain guys like to move up. They would rather move up and lose to a fighter that they're likely to lose, but instead of fighting the guy that's in the division that's right there for the taking. This is part of the reason why, and I understand there's a lot of money in this. It's a lot more money than in Boots or Virgil Ortiz or anybody else at welterweight. It's a lot of much more money involved. I agree. But just like Mikey Garcia, dude, Lomachenko is right there in your face. You're both undefeated. Well, Loma wasn't undefeated, but Loma was having his good run. He was champion. He was right there at 135. You could fight him right now. No, I'm going to go up and fight a more challenging fight because I would rather lose the fight that I'm not the favorite to win than be embarrassed by losing the guy that's my size or smaller. And I think Mikey would have lost that fight to Lomachenko. I think he would have got outboxed. Instead, he went up to fight Errol Spence. And I know Errol Spence is the bigger money fight. Like, this fight is going to be the bigger money fight. It's going to be a bigger money fight for Conor Benn to fight Chris Eubank Jr. It's going to be a pay-per-view. So I get it. But I also understand how guys like to maneuver around the tough challenges in their division. You know, these guys like to do it. You know, this guy, Kell Brook, I find really strange how you choose to go up to fight Triple G when Errol Spence is your mandatory. Spence is your mandatory now. Now you want to go up and fight Triple G, 2 weight divisions up, and we're selling it as, well, Kell Brook is daring to be great. No, dare and be great by fighting this young, hungry, undefeated fighter that everybody is avoiding at the moment. Because at the end of the day, regardless of how you feel about Spence and Bud, Spence was very avoided. No one wanted to fight him first. Brook got stuck with it because Spence was in that sanctioning body. But no one wanted to fight Spence first. Thurman didn't. Mikey didn't. Porter didn't. All of them ended up fighting him later when he was more of a star and it made more sense at the time. None of them wanted to take the challenge first. You know? Yeah, but I mean, overall, yeah, it makes sense financially for Ben. And if he does win, I think it will make him big. At least he was able to get the rehydration clause because, yeah, that is going to affect Chris Eubank. And they know this. And if that wasn't the case, then they wouldn't have to worry about a rehydration. If they were really confident that if Conor Benn was really confident that he can beat Chris Eubank Jr. at 100%, he wouldn't have put that rehydration clause in effect or even the catch weight. This is why Chris Eubank is saying, dude, I'm just going to be 60% fighting you. I'm not even going to train like that. I'm going to get fit. I'm going to get down in weight. I'm going to make the weight, and that's it. And then beat you. However way I want to beat you. He'll get it. Yeah, I see you guys in the comments. He'll get some of the weight back, but it's not the same. Any fighter that's been there knows, every pound counts, man. When you're cutting that much down, every pound counts. This is a guy that's fought at 168, at the elite level. He was in the World Boxing Super Series at 168. For him to come below 160, which he hasn't been in years, it's a lot. It's going to be a lot for him. All right. But yeah, listen, definitely advise you guys to check out the press conference. It was funny as hell. A lot of quotables in there from Chris Eubank Jr. Again, I really, really wish that he did more with his career because I think he could have been a bigger star, and I think he could have at least merged a little bit into being an American star too, because I think when you have the gift of gab and you just know how to talk and you're witty, you know how to come back, you know how to do all that trash talking. I think that I think he's one of those guys that could have been, a star worldwide with just the way that he talks, I think a lot of people dislike it. But a lot of people just overall hate Arrogance. But at the same time, it keeps people entertained. It keeps people interested. It makes people want to see you lose. People want to see you fight because they want your mouth to get shut. And I just don't think that Eubank really took advantage of his style, you know, like the way Adrian Broner did. Adrian Broner took full advantage of it. I mean, even Billy Joe Saunders did. Billy Joe Saunders did. You know, when Canelo broke his face, people were laughing at this dude. People were happy for him to get beat up because they hated so much about him. Everything that he said in interviews, things that he did outside of the ring, people wanted him to lose so bad. Same thing with Adrian Broner. People wanted Broner to lose so bad. People hated Adrian Broner so much that fans still say that Broner got knocked out by Maidana. You know how many times you heard, I'm sure some of you heard fans or even read on social media, fans saying, yeah, Broner got destroyed and got knocked out by Marcos Maidana. No, he didn't. He got dropped by Maidana. He got beaten up by Maidana, but he didn't get knocked out. But if you listen to fans, they hate him so much that they're just going to stretch out what happened in that fight and make it more than what it is, you know? Punch Quote says Ben is so unproven. It isn't even a fight. Best win is Algieri. People are talking crazy. Some crazy talk with Rigo, Fort Loma, Brooke, Triple G, Gamboa, Crawford. Well, people are talking crazy because people don't think Chris Eubank is that good. And I don't think Chris Eubank is as good as Triple G or Loma or Errol Spence. You know, for the fighters that had moved up 2 divisions to fight someone. You know, all of these people you named are on a different level than Chris Eubank. So even though Conor Benn is unproven, Chris Eubank is really not that much more proven. You know, that's what makes it something. That's what sells it a little bit, because Chris Eubank lost to the top 2 fighters he fought. You know, he lost to Saunders, who ducked Andrade, right? Ducked Triple G and got knocked out by Canelo. And Chris lost to him. You know, George Groves was a good win. I mean, he lost to George Groves, but George Groves lost to Callum Smith, Carl Froch twice. You know, he beat James DeGale back in the day. But you know, like Chris Eubank lost to like good fighters, but not fighters that got big wins. You know, so you can make the same argument for Chris Eubank. Conor Benn or Chris Eubank has not accomplished anything of those names that you just brought up. You know? Yeah, he proved, but yeah, you're saying that he's more proven by fighting those guys. I understand what you're saying. I'm not even disagreeing with you. What I'm trying to say is he fought those guys at that level, but he lost to those guys. He fought better guys, but he lost to those guys. You know? So if Conor Benn fought better people than Algieri, we won't know if he's proven. Just being in the ring with them doesn't prove more if you lose to them. You know, now it gives you more experience because he's been in there. Like, I agree that Chris Eubank has more experience than Conor Benn, right? He has more experience because he's been in there with top tier fighters. But it doesn't prove that he's actually, just because he shared a ring with certain good fighters, it doesn't mean that he's naturally better or more talented. You know what I'm saying? Like, Adrian Broner has shared a ring with many, many good fighters, but he lost to all the very good fighters he fought or had draws with some. You know, he had a draw with Jesse Vargas, whereas Tim Bradley, you know, Manny Pacquiao beat Jesse Vargas. You know? So that's the point that I'm making here. Conor Benn is unknown. We don't know how good he is. Whereas Chris Eubank, the top 2 fighters he fought, he lost to. He was outboxed by them. That's my point. Stan Jonas versus Crowley's a good fight. I have Stan Jonas beating him too, though. You know? That guy Slick says, do you think Ben's power will be effective, being that he's fighting a 168 pounder? Well, he's not gonna be fighting a 168 pounder. You know, Chris Eubank has dropped down from 168 a while ago, and he's also going to be at a catch weight for this fight, and he's going to have a rehydration clause. So with that being said, he's going to be fighting the weakest version of Chris Eubank. So could his power be effective? Yeah, I think if he hits him enough, he could, but he got to also worry about what's getting thrown back at him. You know, because at the end of the day, the weakest version of Chris Eubank is still much stronger than anyone that Conor Benn has fought as a welterweight. So Conor Benn looks like he has this destructive power at 147. But he's fought guys that are not the most durable guys, and not the biggest punchers neither. He hasn't fought no real big puncher. You know, Samuel Vargas. Let me look up his resume real quick. Samuel Vargas, Chris Algieri, who's never been a puncher. All right. Chris Van Heerden, you know, who is just known for being in the ring with Errol Spence. He didn't really do anything neither. He's not a puncher like that. You know, Sebastian Famella, who's not a puncher. I mean, he hasn't fought. Those are the best guys he fought. Famella, Vargas, Granados, Algieri, and Heerden. Those guys are not a 60% version of Chris Eubank. None of those guys. So do I think his power will be effective? I mean, it may be if Chris Eubank is really drained for the fight. We'll know at the weigh-in. You know, if this guy Chris Eubank comes to the weigh-in, if he shows up at the weigh-in and his face is like sunken in and he looks like he's about to pass out, give this man some water, please. Now give him some Gatorade, give him something. If we see that on the day of the weigh-in, then I can see him probably maybe getting hurt. You know, I can see him maybe, you know, in the later rounds, just looking burnt out. You know, we just got to wait and see. I don't think so. I personally think Chris Eubank is going to win this fight. You know, it's just, I think he's going to win, but I also think that it really depends on how he wins too, because if he wins and he's struggling to win and he's he barely makes it to the 12th round, then that's not going to be it's not going to be a good look for him neither. You know, Conor Benn wins, even if he loses the fight, it's gonna look good for him. You know, but I'll tell you one thing. Chris Eubank said something like, he's like, because Chris Eubank said a lot. You know, I'm just now I'm starting to remember certain things. Chris Eubank was like, yeah, I'm not even in shape right now. You know, I haven't been training consistently. I'm overweight. He was just really saying everything to piss off Conor Benn. He was making it seem like this is just another day in the park for him. You know, for a guy to say that he's overweight, he's not training, which he might be lying. He might just be saying that just to piss off Conor Benn, just to get in his head. I personally think he is. For him to say that he hasn't been training, saying that he's overweight, saying that only a 60% version of himself will beat him, saying that I normally kill myself preparing for a fight, sparring killers. I'm not going to do any of that, you know, admitting that he won't be 100%, but he doesn't need to be 100% to beat this guy. He's saying a whole bunch of stuff. And I think he's doing it to get in Conor Benn's head. And I think some of it is true. Some of it makes sense. But I also believe that he's trying to get in Conor Benn's head. And I think it's definitely, you know, I think he's definitely going to get in his head. And I think he's definitely going to win the fight. Young Hollywood says, your man Fury retired again, apparently. Yeah, you know, I tweeted this. You guys see me on Twitter. You know me. I don't believe anything that Tyson Fury says, man. What did I say to you guys yesterday? This guy, Tyson Fury, is a marketing genius. Tyson Fury is a marketing genius. All right. I never thought the Derek Chisora fight was real. I know that Fury just likes to come out and say certain things. I don't believe anything Fury says until we get news that the fight is official. You know, Tyson Fury is an amazing talent. He's a great fighter. I'm not taking anything away from him as a fighter. But as far as what he says out of his mouth, he's a bullshit artist. He's retired. He's not retired. He's returning from retirement. 2 days later, he's retired again. Fury says what he wants to say. As long as Fury is the champion, he is not retired in my eyes. The WBC still has him as a champion. He's not retired. Everything he said is to market himself. He doesn't have to be in a fight to market himself. Fury's going to say things and put things out there to get people to keep talking about him. Floyd Mayweather does the exact same thing. Leonard says, thank you, Leonard. He says, if he's 100%, it would be a public execution. And it would be. And that's exactly why this fight is at a catch weight with a rehydration clause. Because he said it wouldn't be fair. It wouldn't even be close. This is why I'll be only 60% when you fight me. And he said he's still going to beat you. He said you have zero chance of beating me, even at 60%. Thank you for the chat. All right, guys, I'm out of here, man. I just wanted to jump on real quick. I actually was ready to do the breakdown for Joshua Usyk. I think I finally decided where I'm going to go with the fight. I know I've done videos on it, but I was going to do it today, but I'm probably going to have it out by tomorrow morning. All right. So be on the lookout for that. That'll be my next video. I'm ready to get that out of the way. And I'm out of here. Y'all have a good weekend. I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.